Hi, Miss Malky. What you got, sweetie?
Let's see. That's good. And they like to cook.
That's good.
And she's trying to eat her dinner.
My son.
We live in Centennial.
Happy Hanukkah,
Happy Hanukkah.
Shavua Tov,
Shul Tov.
and welcome to the Adam Street Shul. My name is Benjamin Fleischman, president of the Adam Street Shul. It is my unique, humble opportunity to welcome you here. The story of Hanukkah is how a small group of people dedicated to Hashem and His ways, rededicated and cleaned up the base of Mikdash, and found a small jug of oil that was pure, and they lit it. And when they lit it, it lasted much longer than it was supposed to. So tell me, who does not believe in the miracles of Hanukkah? Who does not believe the Nes Gadol Hayata Po, a great miracles happened here? Mi Yimolet Yevot Israel, Otam Mi Yimneh. Who can recount the many things that have happened to this shul in its 100 years history? For in every year, every age, someone has risen to our aid here at Adam Street. At first, there was a unique group of Jewish people who had to find out how to make Shabbos and work compatible. Financially struggling, they came together and built this shul. And when this shul got successful and people moved away, by the mid-50s and 60s, Elmer Lippin was here by himself, sweeping the floors of an old, dilapidated building with peeling paint and leaking windows. But he never let the light go out in this place. And in the mid-80s, he handed the keys to Bertram Graham and said, I have to go. Bert became our new Maccabean. He stood here and he listened and heard the voice of this shul say, please don't let me die. And he, with superhuman effort and an ever-growing small group of people, rebuilt and rededicated this shul. So by the 1980s, it was a usable building. He became a shamus, you see, and he lit other candles. Ariel Chesses, Jordan Wagner, Michael Walker, Lord Cohen, Saul, my buddy there, Len Berman. He lit many candles, and those candles we lit and rededicated this shul to the Torah way of life here in Newton. Today, as president, as I said on Yom Kippur, I hear the voice of this shul all the time. I'm here many days and it says, repair my carpet, fix my leaking roof, change the light bulb. And there are things I do because it's music to my ear. This shul has a tireless voice. It sounds like an old man sometimes to me, full of Torah and of wisdom. And yet other times, it's very excitable, childlike, like one of the children downstairs in our Shabbos group. It is a sweet voice. It is a voice that if you listen very closely, you will also hear the voices of our ancestors of 100 years. And with our own voices, blending together here tonight and today, we will continue to reach up, way up into the sky, where heaven and earth meet, where all people can see that we here at Adam Street will not let the light go out. This is our burden. This is our promise. This is our future. Welcome to the Adam Street Shul.
Steve Ganser, and with the permission of the rabbi and our president Benjamin Fleischman and the board of directors of the Shul, I'd like to welcome everyone to our event this evening and to our celebration. Over the past year, we have celebrated and marked this milestone in a number of ways, with exhibits at the Jackson Homestead and the Newton Library, with a stimulating and very informative lecture series, with tours of the Shul, and now culminating with this event. So before we go further, I'd like to acknowledge the members of the Centennial Committee, Shauna Cantor, my wife, Barry Gilfix, Shelley Green, David Jacobson, Stephen Jaffe, Jane Rosen, Philip Rosen, Helena Bax, and Rabbi Weinberg, of course. And in particular, I'd like to thank Barry and Jane and Steve for making tonight happen and for the wonderful program and the refreshments that we'll enjoy in a little while. When we were planning this event, we originally conceived of doing something a little grander and perhaps renting a large hall somewhere else. And along the way, we decided not to do that, and I'll spare you the reasons of how we changed our plan. But I must say that was a great decision, because how fitting is it to honor the Adams Street Synagogue and the people that built it in none other than this wonderful building and this wonderful place. And what is most gratifying to me is that, and this is the theme that you're going to hear a lot during this evening, is that we're not just celebrating an old place. There are many 100-year-old and older buildings here in Newton and in Boston, but what we are celebrating is the Jewish community that built this place and that community that's thriving today. And it is to the credit of the people that Benjamin mentioned, Bert Graham, Barry, Chestises, Len Berman, Saul, that the Adams Street Shul did not go the route of many similar Jewish communities around the U.S. that were abandoned and turned into museums. And I think if you look around you, you'll see every piece of wood, every seat, everything that you see around us is well used and is used today. And to that, I want to wish the Adams Street Shul another 100 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Benjamin and Stephen. My name is Beryl Gilfix, and I have the honor to be the Master of Ceremonies this evening. Tonight, we are reenacting an event that took place exactly 100 years ago today, on this very spot, in this very building, in this very room. They didn't have electricity then, or the pews on which you are sitting, but we are all here tonight together, them and us, then and now. It's hard to reconstruct what those participants 100 years ago were thinking on this night. Did they think about what they had accomplished in building a synagogue in this town, half a world away from where they had been born and raised? Did they think this building would change the way they lived and raised their families? Did they think about the impact that this building might have on the future? Did they think about the symbolism of Hanukkah as they chose to dedicate their synagogue on Hanukkah 100 years ago? Did they think about us being here tonight? In 1912, every single adult member of this congregation was an immigrant from Eastern Europe, as were many of their children. Most had arrived in Newton since 1895, less than 20 years earlier. They had managed, against the odds of language barriers, lack of employment opportunities, religious discrimination, and poverty, to raise about $12,000 to build this building. Keep in mind that salaried employees in those days made less than $15 a week. And keep in mind that of the 7 founding members of this congregation, 6 of them were junk peddlers and dependent on their own sweat and toil for survival. Clearly, something drove every one of them to donate and collect and scrimp and save to build this building. Can we imagine what moved them to dedicate themselves to this project? From the document the founders wrote about their efforts comes the following, quote, "Immediate plans for the erection of a synagogue were drawn up, even before it was known whence the funds for their purpose were to come. Disregarding this, the work was pushed, and soon the realization of their highest aims was a fact. Attesting to this, there now stands in our midst a house of worship, simple and unostentatious though it be." Try to imagine that day 100 years ago. An eyewitness recorded that the mayor-to-be, Mayor Childs, led a parade of Sefer Torahs down Adams Street, carrying an American flag. The little Jewish community, which probably numbered less than 50 families, marching down Adams Street to this new building. A local prominent Jewish community leader ceremonially opened the door for the synagogue for the first time. 2 important rabbis from the North End, then the center of Jewish life in Boston, praised the congregation for its efforts and the results of those efforts. A Boston cantor and his choir sang, an orchestra entertained. Tonight we have worked hard to try to capture the spirit and activity of that day. That day, the current mayor of Newton was here, Mayor Hadfield. The man who would be the next mayor of Newton, Mayor Childs, was here. Greater Boston Jewish celebrities were here. Tonight, we are honored by the presence of children and great-grandchildren of the families who were here on that day 100 years ago. Given the Jewish history of the last century and the tendency of Americans to move all the time, that is truly remarkable. Tonight, we all stand on the shoulders of those giants, all our ancestors, among the 2 million Jewish immigrants at the turn of the century who built the communities which nurtured our parents, ourselves, and now our children. The people who built this synagogue could not have imagined Newton with 14 synagogues and tens of thousands of Jewish residents. But I am sure that our hopes for this congregation and this community are the same as our forebears 100 years ago. Long life and good health, being able to raise Jewish children in a safe and secure environment, and a peaceful and prosperous future. As we rededicate our synagogue tonight, we think about the meaning of Hanukkah, the meaning of dedication. We think about those who have come before us and those who will come after us. We give thanks for the privilege of walking the path our ancestors carved out for us, leading our children on that same path, with gratitude for the sacrifices made by them for our future so long ago. Now, the next part of our program is a reenactment of the bringing of the Sefer Torahs from their temporary home here to the synagogue. And there will be a Torah procession where the Torahs will come in to the synagogue and will be brought to the ark. The ark will be opened, and the Torahs will be placed in the ark as they were 100 years ago. I would like you to please stand as the Torahs are brought in. We have asked 4 individuals to carry in the Torahs: Rabbi Weinberg, the rabbi of our congregation; Rabbi Yaffe, a member of our congregation; Rabbi Samuels from congregation Shari Tefillah; and Bert Grant, the chairman of the board of the synagogue. We have asked Saul Arano, the oldest member of our congregation, and Len Berman, who was a president of the synagogue for many years, to open and close the ark.
זה היום עשה אדוני נגילה ונשמחה בו. This is a day which God has made. Let us rejoice and be happy in it. What a coincidence it seems to be that tonight, when we light and lit the 8th candle of Hanukkah, we also rededicate our beloved house of worship. But I had a very wise Uncle Harry in Tel Aviv, and he staunchly maintained that we do not believe in coincidences. Everything, he says, no matter how slight, always has a purpose if we look long enough. And I believe that the parallel between those two events is very clear. Hanukkah dedication, rededication, and the rededication of our Mikdash Ma'at, of our sanctuary here. I'd like to just focus on the second bracha, which we are going to recite very shortly, and which we have recited in our homes, chanted throughout Hanukkah. She'asa nisim lavotenu vayamim ho'heim bazman hazeh. God, we thank, who has performed miracles for us in those days and in our times as well. Did it ever occur to you that the only holiday in our calendar that took place in Israel is Hanukkah? It's the only one. None of the others. Think a moment. Pesach. Pesach took place in Mitzrayim, and when we left Egypt. Shavuot took place on Har Sinai, at Mount Sinai, outside of Israel. Sukkot took place in the desert, in the Midbar, not in Israel. And even Purim, the other Chag, which is parallel to Hanukkah, happened in Persia. It did not happen in Israel. The only Chag that took place in Israel is that of Hanukkah. And perhaps that's the reason why on Purim we don't say any Hallel, whereas on Hanukkah we say the entire Hallel. Because when Purim was over, Mordechai and Esther and the Jewish people were still subservient to Achashverosh, and who knows what was going to happen tomorrow. But when the Maccabees had that great victory, it was at least for 200 years, and it had everlasting reverberations. But now, in our days, by Yomim Hoheim, and now Bezman Hazeh, there is another Chag, which also takes place, and that is on the 5th of Iyar, which we call Yom Ha'atzmaut, the day on which we came back to Israel and rededicated our holy land. And what a truth it is now when we say, She'asa nisim lavoseinu b'yomim hoheim b'zman hazeh. And in the same manner, we can say that bracha as applying to our synagogue here as well. That by Yomim Oheim, in those days, the pioneers whom we spoke about before, and we'll speak about some more, they came here and miraculously saw to it that a little synagogue be built in a place where it was almost impossible at the time, and it's still hard to get a million sometimes. But nevertheless, we survived and we prevailed. Bazman Hazeh, in the days today, and of course for the future. So my bracha is that we will always increase in Kedusha. You know what Hillel said? Shammai was right. We started with 8 candles, all the oil, and we worked our way down. So Shammai said we should start with 8 candles and end up with 1 candle. That's the historical sequence. And Hillel said, don't bother me with facts. When it comes to Kedusha, our people, Malin B'Kodesh V'lo Moridin, we always rise. We start with 1 little candle, and we go higher and higher until all the 8 candles are burning. And that's our task in our personal lives, and in our communal lives, and in our national lives. So my bracha is that we also grow mikoach lechoach, from strength to strength, and that Hashem will bless the state of Israel, the Jewish people, and bless the entire world with shalom, with peace. Amen. Chag Sameach.
Because it's Hanukkah, we're going to light a menorah. And I am delighted, really thrilled tonight that there are 5 families of the original families who were here in this room in 1912. And I'm going to invite them to come up to help us light the menorah. And I'd like to invite Dr. Ronnie Drapkin, former president of a synagogue, to actually wield the shamas. Okay, we'd like to invite Mark Needleman. Mark is the nephew of Elmer Lippin. And those of you who are old-timers know that without Elmer Lippin, the synagogue would never have survived. Next, Diane Berg. Diane is a freed. Those of you who have lived in Newton for a while know of the legendary Freed family. They had a store on Watertown Street. Sam was renowned for his extraordinary relationships with everybody in the community here. I just want to mention one little fact about Sam Freed. That if a local Newton boy got in trouble and was sent to jail, Sammy Freed used to go and visit that boy in jail. Not a Jewish boy, a non-Jewish kid from the neighborhood, in the hopes that he might be able to influence that young man to a different way of life. And we're delighted to have Diane with us tonight. She is a daughter of Sam Freed, and granddaughter of Sam Freed. Sorry. I'd like to invite Marilyn and Sheldon Binder. Marilyn is a Nyberg, and the Nybergs were among the founding families of this community. I'd like to invite Jonathan and David Reuter. They are great-grandchildren of Joseph and Sephora Reuter, who have been dedicated members of this community since the day it was founded. And I am representing the Gilfix family, who were also founding members of the congregation. Dr. Draken is going to light the candles, and you will please all join us in singing the bracha.
Taxameam.
I'm Nechama Chesis, and along with my husband Aryeh and our 5 children, we moved to Newton in 1986. And we never looked back. We were always very happy to be here and be part of the beginnings of the Shul. I fondly remember evenings in my living room with Beth Cohen, Alva Shalom, and Helene Storch, who was another woman who lived here and now lives in New Jersey. And the 3 of us planned minyanim here once a month because they were only happening a few times a year. And we thought, what a shame for this shul that wasn't open on Shabbos since the 50s. What a waste of a beautiful building and a future community. So we were proud to say that it continued, and now it's twice a month, and then now finally it's weekly. And I'm proud to say we have minyanim for Friday night, for Shabbos morning, and for Mincha and Maariv, which we had this evening.
Sunday morning. Sunday morning. Sunday morning.
Sunday mornings as well. That's right. So we had very humble beginnings, as you can see when we go down to the reception. The original Aron Kodesh is down there, and it was built it looked like it was handmade by the wainscoting of the downstairs walls. So that was the beginning of the community. And as I said, we've lived here for many years, and we've seen the ups and downs. And certainly Barry Gilfix, who's an original link to the grandchildren of the founders, they probably will remember, and as the families who are here tonight can probably remember being here as children. I'd love to have them tell their stories downstairs later. We had many simchas here, brisses, namings, bar mitzvahs, bat mitzvahs. And tonight I'm really, very verklempt. It's really wonderful to be here and just see so many familiar faces and be here as part of this historic moment of the 100th anniversary. So today we're pleased to have the South African choir leading services today. And when it came time to open the Ark, which we did tonight for Eitz Chaim Hi, I felt like the music was just bouncing off the walls, and it was sort of connecting and reenacting the joy of the founders, that what they must have felt when they first came to the shul and opened the Ark for the first time. And their spirits, their souls, and neshamot were really with us today. So I would like to also say that when the two first members of the shul were member of the immigrant organization HIAS, it's called the Hebrew Immigration Society. And I must say that the history of that organization, I'm pretty sure, became CJP, right? That CJP took that role in the community. And it gives me the pleasure to introduce a wonderful leader and family friend of the community, Barry Schraeg, who's going to speak to us tonight about where the shul fits into to the greater community. And I want to say a few words about Barry Schraeg, if you don't mind, that whenever Barry sends a note, when there's a crisis in the Jewish community, it's a wonderful, in my inbox, I always look forward to having Barry's letters, and I make a special file of them to show my children how a good letter is written. And it's always, it's not just flowery words, it's practical information of how you can really help out during a time of challenge for our people. And during the recent time in Israel, when we had our conflict, a matter of weeks ago, Barry was on a plane to go where he was needed, where he could have his influence felt. And he's a man of action as well as a man of words. And it gives me great pleasure to present him tonight. Thank you, Barry.
This building is actually breathtakingly beautiful. Kol hakavod to everyone who gave blood, sweat, and tears to preserve this building, to make it into a living synagogue. Those are miracles. We all know how many synagogues faded away and how many communities faded away. So you should really feel amazingly good about this. Not just for the synagogue itself, but because it represents something incredibly important for the whole Jewish community. So this synagogue was built probably 7 years after my grandparents came to the United States. They went to the Lower East Side, and they probably davened in a synagogue very much like this. So it's really not just your history, it's also the history of all of us, all of American Jewry. so much of American, I don't want to get into Ellen's description of the history of the community, but I think it's so important what it represents. I did just come back from Israel, and when I was there, I learned a few things, because there were terrible things going on in the south of Israel, children being killed, communities being hit by missiles, and one of the three things that seemed most important about what I learned was that those communities survived on hope and persistence and resiliency. And I think that the creation of any community like this depends on all of those things. So I was down in Sderot, talking to the leadership of the community, really just simple people. The people who stayed were all simple people. The people who could afford to get away pretty much did get away. But for those people, hope and community were the most important things. They didn't want to leave. They wouldn't leave. They wanted to be there because their hearts and their souls were bound up in this sense of community. So by preserving this community, you're really saying to everyone that persistence and resilience and hope really are the backbone of what Jewish community is. It's the heart of what Israel is in very, very tough times. And I think that you represent that for all of us. CJP is 117 years old. And so we precede this synagogue by just a little bit. But the truth is, what I know every single day is that big communities like federations can't exist without small communities like this. Small communities like this are the heart of the Jewish community. You're the ones that bring young people in. You're the ones that create a sense of community and hope. You're the ones that extend your hand into the future. Without places like this, there can be no Jewish community. So, speaking on behalf of CJP and on behalf of the community, we're so proud and grateful for what you did, starting with those, what did you call them, junk peddlers, recycling, scrap metal dealers. You just put it in modern terms. That's kind of what it was. But on behalf of my grandfather, Harry Markowitz the tailor, and all of the scrap metal dealers of their times, who started something amazing. But you know what? That memory would have faded a long time ago without what you have done, without the creation of this synagogue, without the maintenance of this synagogue. All too often we allow our memories to die and our communities to die, and every one of those is a tragedy. So, kol hakavod to all of you for maintaining this and caring for this and putting your love and heart and blood and sweat and tears into making this happen. It represents everything that's good, everything that's persistent, everything that's resilient, everything that stands for the future, not just of this shul or our community, but really of the Jewish people. Thank you for doing it.
Due to a family emergency, I am sorry that Ellen Smith is not able to be with us this evening. And I'm going to try, in my own feeble way, to try to mention a few of the things that she might have spoken about. Ellen first came here in the 1990s as we were just beginning to revive this synagogue and really rebuild it as a congregation. And one of the things that she talked about all the time, and she has been here and spoken many times and conducted tours of the synagogue, she talked about the fact that this synagogue is the last synagogue standing, in a sense, in its original building, in its original location, and still a synagogue. At one point in the 1920s, there were probably about 50 synagogues in the greater Boston area, similar to this one. Every one of them is now a church or converted to other uses or has been torn down. It is really a remarkable testament to this community that we have survived when all the others did not. Not because we were the most wonderful, the most pious, the most holy. We just happened to be lucky that we were in Newton. But even being in Newton would not have meant anything if it was not for the members of the Newton community who have really embraced this shul. We are a very tiny congregation, And we cannot survive without all of you, many of you are members of other synagogues, other congregations, but your support for us, financial, spiritual, emotional, by your presence here tonight, you give us the impetus to go forward for the next 100 years. As we conclude tonight's celebration of our 100th birthday, as we rededicate our beloved synagogue, as we think about the past and the future, I recall the words of the Talmud. I did not find the world desolate when I entered it. My ancestors planted for me before I was born. So I plant for those who will come after me. Let us turn our minds back not only to those ancestors who lived here in Newton, but to all our forefathers and foremothers, to think on their determination and dedication, and let us resolve to do as they did, to plant for those who will come after us. Let us hope that our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren will stand here at this place on this day 100 years hence and think of us and cherish their past and plan for their own futures. I can think of no more fitting moment to say Shehecheyanu. We have been enabled to reach this day together, this 100th anniversary, this day of dedication and rededication. Please say Shehecheyanu with me. Baruch atah Eloheinu melech haolam, Shehecheyanu kimanu hiyanu b'zman hazeh. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing this wonderful moment with us. And we look forward to seeing you many times in the future. And now you are invited to come downstairs and have some refreshments. Thank you.
Can I just make one very quick halachic little thing? This is a beautiful program, and it's actually a historic document now. However, it has another thing with it, and God's name was put in it in the brachos. So therefore, if you want to keep it as a keepsake, that's wonderful. But if you don't, put it with old Sfarim, but don't throw it out because God's name is on it, okay? Thank you.
thank everyone for attending our celebration here. It's really fabulous to see everybody here, especially the descendants and relatives of some of the founders and certainly our guests and the regular members of the community. Before we leave, I want to thank a couple people who did just tremendous amount of work to make what you see here possible. The first is Steve Jaffe. Steve, are you around? Yeah. This whole thing has been created by Steve, and we really want to thank him so much for that and all his hard work. And the other is Jane Rosen. Jane? Thank you today, Jane, for helping arrange this. And then also Barry. Where's Barry? Thank you, Ted. Thank you all. Destroy.
And also Steve Cantor for organizing the committee.
That's right.